Okay. So, welcome to this week's deathmatch. The XXL shows the Brimstone monsters, enemies. I thought again we'd use one of the newer ones that was wave 3. This time the other one that was in wave 3 that you may have seen me put together. This fella, the Oni Warlord with box of slaves. There we go, that fella. So put him on one side of this Forbidden Fortress tile. And we go back to one of the original sort of Wild West ones. And I thought we'd go with this one. There we go, the Burrower. There we go, big old worm one. There we go. So those are going to be our two combatants this evening. How do they shape up versus each other? Well, we've seen the Burrower before. There we go. There's the Burrower's sheet. It basically summons a load of tentacles. They've got their own sheet here. There they go. Brutal tentacles. Brutal tentacles. So we're using that for those. And then it has some sort of random attacks. It does. So it can do quite a bit of damage. 45 health. Defense of 3. And I'd say the attacks are a little bit more random. It's got endurance of 5 and tough, so it can't take criticals and only takes 5 per hit. So that is really basically the Burrower. It is quite straightforward, the Burrower, in terms of what it does. So here's the Oni Warlord. Not quite straightened out yet since the bending in the box. If those who saw that video will see it's under so there we go. It's had about 2 weeks under a heavy box of terraforming Mars. And that's what we were left with in terms of bend on radius. Anyway, so here you go, that's the Oni Warlord. So a big thing to notice about the Oni Warlord, it's got 60 health rather than 45, so it starts off advantage there. It's also tough, and it's got endurance 4 rather than 5, so again, it's not going to take as much damage per hit potentially. But also, this is possibly one of the biggest hitting in terms of raw attack damage of the XXL models we've seen. 5 combat, 8 damage each. So it's going to max out each hit on the 5 damage per hit against the Burrower, whilst the Burrower is, again, up against defensive 3, so might do more, might do less, but is maxing out on 4. It also has the slight benefit that it can target multiple models, multiple heroes in this case, so it can sort of AoE clear those tentacles out of the way, potentially, depending on where they end up landing. So that's just basically, it swings its big club and just knocks everything in a line over. It's also, and this is what, I'm not entirely sure how this would work, but I'm sure it's what the rules say, it can stuff the models next to it into the cage, the slave cage, so you get this big old worm shoved inside that cage. Interestingly, if that is the last model that gets done to, that's it, over, Oni wins. If it's not, then they can try and get out. We shall see how that actually pans out. So yeah, I've had to call it. I'm going on the Oni on this one. I think this is going to be an absolute walk in the park for the Oni. Sorry, Burrower, I think you're probably the lowest tier of XXLs in this particular sort of framework of matchups. But yeah, I think we're on the Oni of this. So start of the fight, the Burrower summons Paradise Tentacles in ambush. So summons 4. So let's get 4 of our tentacles and put them next to, there we go, 4 tentacles next to the Oni. We then start with initiatives. The highest is going to be, for this turn, because of the ambush, it's going to be the tentacles. So they has 4 of them, so they each have combat 3, doing damage 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Is that right? 12 dice? I miscounted. That looks like 11. It is 11. So 12 dice. See how much damage gets done to the Oni Warlord. Hitting on 4s and 6s would ignore defense, except that's a crit. So the Oni Warlord's immune to crit. So just 4s or more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Slightly above average. So 7. They do 5 damage each. So 2 after defense. So 14 to the Warlord to start. It's a pretty good start, I must admit. But yeah, 14 to the Warlord. Now that's the tentacles done. Then we followed the Warlord. It changes targets every turn. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and ignore 6. With the 4, so it's going to go. So it's going to attack that one. That's the one it's trying to attack. It then says it may attack against heroes up to 3 spaces away. So you can attack effectively all of those tentacles if you can. When attacking, if more than one target is in range, select 2 random heroes within range to target the attack. So we've done 1, so that one, and so we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for these other ones. That one. So it's going to hit that one and that one. Right. Okay. Draw a straight line for the 2 targets. The swing of the club. Okay. So it's only going to basically be itself. So it's not going to hit itself. It rolls full combat against every model in a space. And then for every enemy killed by this, it heals D6 wounds. Well, I've forgotten about that. Yeah, that's really going to play in its favour. It's going to just mush these tentacles to get its hits back. So the first one suffers 5 combat, hitting on 4 or more for 8 damage each. I mean, if even as much as 1 hit, it's going to kill it. There we go, 1 hit, kills it. That tentacle gets smushed. We'll heal D6 in a moment. This one, 5 dice. Yeah, 1 hit. Smushes it. Those 2 get, so heals 2d6 damage. 7. So that's the Oni's basic attack. It then says at the end of the Oni Warlord's move, okay, 1 random hero adjacent to him must make an agility 5 or more. If the Warlord is less than half health, or 6 or more, sorry, if less than half health. Yeah, if only 1 or 2 heroes in the hero party, you may add +2 dice to the skill test. Not quite there yet. Right, so anyway, there's a chance it's going to stuff one of these tentacles in. So let's go odds, evens. Evens. So it's going to go for that one. That one needs to make an agility 5 or more test. It's 1 dice. It does, it passes. It's not stuffed in the cage. There we go. So that's the end of the Oni. We then come to the Burrower. So at the start of its activation, you roll 2d6 to see what it does. So you roll 2d6, gets a 12. Grinding Jaws. Select a random hero within 12 spaces of the Burrower, the Oni. All heroes in the Burrower's arc facing that hero, although there aren't any other than the Oni. Must pass an agility 6 or more test or take 12 hits that do 3 damage each. Well, they're going to do nothing because the defense of 3. So, sorry Burrower, that doesn't actually do much. I can see how that would be pretty deadly versus a normal hero, but doesn't do much versus the Warlord. So that's the first turn. Next turn, the Oni gets to go first. Now they're out of ambush. Its 4 beats the tentacles 3. So we see who it attacks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's going to go for that tentacle, which means it's also going to attack that tentacle. 5 dice combat versus each. Okay, that one's dead. And that one, yeah, that one's dead too. So it basically kills those 2. There's nothing for it to put into its slave cage. It heals 2d6, doesn't it? Because it's just killed 2, so it heals 11. So it's back down to no wounds. Right, it's done, doesn't it? So that's its turn done. Okay, so we then move on to the Burrower. What does the Burrower do this turn? Does 9. Lash out. Every hero immediately takes peril dice hits for each tentacle and Burrower within 2 spaces of them. Okay, but if they're just hits, they're only going to do 1 damage. They're not. It doesn't say that each hit does X damage, so they just do 1 damage. So again, it's just not going to do anything to the Oni. Round to the start of the next turn. There's no tentacles in place. We get a whole bunch more tentacles. D3 plus 1 tentacles in ambush. So that's 2. So 2 more tentacles appear. They're in ambush, so they get to attack first. So they will attack the Oni. So 6 dice. Hitting on 4. That is 2 that hit. So 2 sets of 5 versus 1, so that's 4 damage in total. Onto the Oni. So then the Onis go. Who's it attack? 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6. It attack. Goes for this one, which means it also goes for this one. 5 dice versus each. Anyone get the feeling we're going to see this endlessly repeat until the Oni actually eventually decides to walk up to the Burrower? Anyway, so the first one gets killed. Second one gets a hit, so kills it. Deals 2d6, which is 7. What does the Burrower do this turn? Does 10. It burrows. Retreats back into the ground, removed from the board. At the start of its next activation, instead of rolling on the chart, it basically pops back up. Okay, I might actually finally do some damage. Right, so end of that turn. Start the next turn. There's no tentacles on board, so D3 plus 1. So that's 4. 4 tentacles appear. They're in ambush, they get to attack first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hits, each doing 2, so that's 10. And that's the tentacles done. Okay, so then you get the Oni. Who's it going to attack? Use a D8, I guess. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Goes for that one, and then also goes for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Also goes for that one, so it's going to go in a line there, so it's just 2 of them. First one, killed. Second one, also killed. Heals 2d6. Only heals 9, so we're left with 1 left over. Right, and then the Burrower appears, so it appears underneath the Oni. Centered on the space. So if we move 3 that way, that moves 3 that way, up pops the Burrower. Right, which does D6 hits doing 4 damage each. 4. So each of those does 1 damage, so it does 4 damage. So we're up to 5 now. Okay. End the turn, start the next. Oni gets to go first. Who is it going to attack? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it attacks that tentacle and odds, evens. And the Burrower. In a straight line, there's just a tentacle and the Burrower. So the tentacle gets hit and killed. So that's going to be a heal for 4. Back down to 1. We'll then swing at the Burrower. 5 dice on the Burrower, hitting on 4. 3 hits, each of which will do 5 damage, so 15. There we go, we're finally actually making some progress. Of course the Burrower's going to regenerate in a minute, knowing my luck. Or knowing the Oni's luck, anyway. Tentacle next. Tentacle does its attack, 3 dice attack. 2 hits, so 4 damage once again. Okay. And then the Burrower does its thing. What's the Burrower going to do? It's going to do a 7. World Shatter. All heroes take 2d6. And the darkness moves 1 space forward. So, yeah, it can't. Again, that's not enough to get through the armour of the Oni. Start the next turn. Oni goes first. Who's the Oni going to... It doesn't matter actually, does it? Because they're both in range. So we'll do the 5 attacks on the tentacle. Kills it. Heals 4, back down to 1 again. And then 5 dice on the Burrower. 2 hits, so 10 damage. On to 25 out of its 45. Okay. the Burrower, that will then do its thing. Oh no, I suppose it could try, we've been forgetting this, it will try and put him in the cage. So, agility 5 or more. It passes, he does not shove the Burrower in the cage. That could be a very early end. So, and we've done the, done that, almost we did. So that's the Oni done. No, we've done the Burrower, haven't we? Let's think. Yes, we have done the Burrower. So start the next turn, D3 plus 1 tentacles appear. So that's 4. Oops. In ambush. They get to attack first. 12. One, 2, 3, 4. 4 hits, 8 damage. There we go, 8 damage on the Oni. Oni's turn. Who's it going to hit? We've got, what, 5 targets? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2. So it's going to go for that one. And a D8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 3. So it's going to go for that one and that one. Okay, so let's swing at the first one. It will be killed. Swing at the second one. It will also be killed. So heal 2d6. Heals 7. Whoops, 2 damage. We're gradually eking our way away, but I don't think it's going to get it out of the, basically, you know, get anywhere near to death before the Burrower does that. Speaking of which, it is the Burrower's turn. Oh no, it's not. Oni Warlord. Stuff something in a bag. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Tries to stuff the Burrower in a bag. Does the Burrower get stuffed in a bag? Does not. Got a 6 again. So yeah, now it's the Burrower. What does the Burrower do? Does a 6, which is a regenerate. Heals peril dice. Heals 5. Okay. Start with next turn. First initiative is the Oni Warlord. So it's going to attack 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's going to attack that tentacle and odds even. That tentacle attacks 2 tentacles. First tentacle completely misses. Second tentacle gets killed. Heals D6. Heals all those wounds. Tentacle attacks. 3 dice. No hits. Shouldn't have done that. Should have done stuffing something in a cage. Odds, evens. Okay, try to shove the tentacle in a cage. It did. The tentacle gets put in a cage. Blah blah blah. And it is then, was it? At the start of that activation. Okay, so at the start of the activation, did the tentacle get out? Need 6? No. Did not. Yeah. Right. Then it's the Burrower. So the Burrower does 9, which is lash out. Peril dice hits for each tentacle and Burrower into space. Again, doesn't do anything because it can't get past the defense of the Oni Warlord. Start with next turn. No tentacles on play on the table, so it summons 2. There we go, 2 tentacles. They get to attack first. 2 hits, yeah, 2 hits, 4 damage. Then the Oni Warlord itself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Who's it target? Targets that tentacle, odds, evens, and that tentacle. So it goes for both tentacles. First tentacle gets killed. Second tentacle gets killed. Suffers, so heals 2d6, isn't it? So heals 7 wounds. Gets rid of those. Does it shove the Burrower in a bag? It does. Shoves the Burrower in the bag, and that is mission over. It says basically all heroes in this location are KO'd, end of turn, and the mission is failed. At the end of turn. So technically, this tentacle gets a chance to break out and keep the fight going. Does the tentacle break out on a 6? It does. Just so you can see that, because I think it's behind the Oni. I'm going to move it out of the way so you can see. There you go. Look at that. I haven't fluked it. I haven't, fudged it. It actually rolled a 6. So the tentacle breaks out, keeping the Burrower in the game. Place it with blah blah blah. Continuing activation is normal. So yeah, attacks is normal. 1 wound. Sorry, 2 wounds. Hits once for 2 wounds. Okay, which means the Burrower gets a chance to get out as well. Okay. Doesn't manage it. Okay. So now we tick round to the top of the next turn. The Oni Warlord gets to go first. Targets that tentacle. Kills it. Heals D6. Heals everything. Can't put anything in its bag because there's nowhere to put in a bag. The Burrower gets its turn and it needs to break out, otherwise this is game over. No, it doesn't. Again, I'm not sure if you can see that behind that, but it was a 4, not a 6. So then that is game over. That is game over. I think it was only going one way anyway. The Burrower was going down eventually. And I think that's the first time we've had a flawless victory. The Oni Warlord took no damage, or it took a lot of damage, just healed it all the way. So yeah, that's a win for the new contender. The Oni Warlord, pretty quick. Dispatched the Burrower, who just couldn't really do any damage to it. Seemed to be the problem there. And yeah, it's got a Burrower in a cage somehow as a slave. Not sure how that works, but yeah, there we go. So yeah, we'll see who's up in the fight next week.